Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2019 career mode, episode number 69 today for the Spanish Grand Prix in Season 4. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, then be sure to go check the one out before you see this one. In that one, we had 3 ultimate upgrades, but the result wasn't exactly what we were hoping for. Hoping for a better showing here at the Spanish Grand Prix. Obviously, Azerbaijan, long back straights, it means that everyone can close up on one another with the DRS and slipstream trains on this game, whereas at Spain, obviously high downforce, the car really determines more the kind of starting grid, especially in all conditions, kind of Noah's Ark, as you will, I think the saying is. So hopefully our car will be performing a little bit better in the race and in quali than it did last episode. Obviously we did very well in quali actually last episode, but the race pace, mystifyingly, was not there like it was in the first 3 rounds and races of this season so far. You can see here we have jumped Renault now, and we're just ahead of them on the R&D chart by about a pixel there with that final performance upgrade we had this weekend. We had also 2 reliability upgrades, and that's kind of the motive for a bit of this season now, is getting the reliability up of this car, because we come into this episode then having to change the gearbox. So no matter where I qualify, I will have to drop 5 places to change the gearbox, because we already lost the gear actually for a little bit last episode. So that's kind of where we are at with this car right now. We've kind of got the performance almost nearly where we want it to be. There's still some upgrades to do on the chassis side of things, but for now we're now going to focus on reliability and make sure we can actually use the performance of the car, you know, actually fully in quali and the race without having penalties later on down the season, hopefully for myself and Lewis Hamilton. So that's how we're shaping up into quali. We know there's going to be a grid drop, unfortunately, but just got to do the best job out there, and hopefully we can try and get pole position, and then we'll be minimum in P5 then for the race start. So let's get into quali and see how we do over one lap.
Qualifying's about to kick off any moment here at the Circuit Barcelona Catalunya. No doubt that today will be full of action on the track. This is a track that tends to ask quite a lot of the tyres, both front and rear. So is it fair to say a great deal of management will be needed in order to do well here?
Tyre wear is always something you have to consider to a certain degree. Finding a good car balance that suits the circuit will help prolong the life of the tyre, but it's true that some circuits, such as this one, are more challenging than others. How hard you can push them depends on your strategy and how tight the battle is around you.
Right, so it's all sunny skies then in Q1 at the moment, in stark contrast to what the weather forecast is saying for tomorrow's race on Sunday, which is intermediates for the entire race, which I'm very much not looking forward to, but we just have to deal with it basically. I can't do anything about the weather, I can't change it or like anything like that in career mode, so we move on then. At least we can drive this car with anger in qualifying, at least on low fuel mode, and I must say it feels pretty darn good. You can see we're P8 only, so a little bit of time to find, but the feeling of the car is amazing. I think pretty much with most of these cars now, because they're so highly upgraded. Going to the Spanish Grand Prix, obviously a circuit where you test the F1 cars out of pre-season, every car is going to feel really exquisite, you know, because it's so maxed out, the downforce is so high, the chassis is so lightweight, and the engine power is so great. So we go across the line then in Q2 then. We had to actually set 2 lap times in Q2 to get through into Q3, because my first lap was actually pretty horrendous and was down in P12, so that's unfortunate. I had to burn one whole free set of soft tyres. That means going to Q3 then, this is my one and only flying lap then. At the moment, Nico Hulkenberg is on pole position then in the Racing Point car, again showing the Racing Point team looking good, although Renault I feel like are the overall best team to us, even though they're 3rd or even 4th on paper now behind us on the R&D chart. I feel like Renault in the race and in real terms have the best pace of all the cars up there, but let's see how we can do as we wring the neck out this car up the hill, just about keep it through on the track there as we swing through the last corner then across the line. What will it be? It looks like it's only going to be P8 then. That is quite disappointing, I can't lie, to be honest. That lap felt better. I thought it was a decent lap, but no, even though it felt pretty good, it's only enough for P8, and we actually lost about 4 tenths there, and that's a slower lap time than we did in Q2, so just didn't get it all together. Of course, I only had 1 lap there, so, you know, I had myself to blame for that, for having a slow one in Q2 to start off with. Hamilton does a stonking job to get on the front row then, and look how close it is. That's actually a little bit fishy, actually, to be fair. From P1 to P7, I feel like that's the simulation times glitching a little bit and making the grid that close together, but nonetheless it is very, very close, and Hamilton's done a stellar job to be on the front row. Hulkenberg though on pole position then, and we're obviously going to drop back 5 places from P8, and it's going to be raining for the race, so I think we have quite a tough task on our hands come tomorrow's race, but let's just go to the grids and see how we shape up.
Good afternoon from a very familiar setting. It's race day here in Spain, and with everything still to play for in the championship battle, there's no room for mistakes in a Grand Prix that's well known for creating them. It's 730 metres from pole position down to a slippery turn 1 here, the first of 16 corners around this 2.89 mile racetrack. The long, wide turn 3 and the uphill right-hander of turn 9 can both be taken full throttle in the right conditions, but I doubt very much we'll be seeing any of that today. Anthony Davidson, a very warm welcome to you as you join me in the commentary box for today's event. Let's talk about the engineer. They've had to change their gearbox. It's never a good start to a Grand Prix when, right off the bat, you have to contend with a grid penalty.
Well, at the end of the day, it's always better to take some pain now than parking it up halfway through the Grand Prix. Let's just hope they can put that new gearbox to good use and get the results they're looking for.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Great work from Nico Hülkenberg yesterday sees him start on pole, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Verstappen, Gasly, Sergio Perez, and Faber, Butler, Fiat, Norris, and Kevin Magnussen. Leclerc, the engineer, Valtteri Bottas, and Giovinazzi, Grosjean, Raikkonen, Lance Stroll, and Sebastian Vettel. Russell and Daniel Ricciardo fills the last spot on the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
I say here we are then on the grid in P12 actually, not P13, as Daniel Ricciardo in the Ferrari got demoted even further than I did, so that elevated me one free position there. You can see though the outlook of this entire Grand Prix is very bleak. It's going to be a very long Grand Prix for me, as it's going to be raining the entire time. Intermediates for every single stint here. Three sets of them, 2 stops apparently, with the tyre webbing quite hard on the intermediates, but we'll see about that. That may just be the kind of default there, but we might get away with doing a 1-stop, we'll see. But from P12, Hamilton's P2, so we've got a lot of time to make up, a lot of positions to make up. We want to try and match our teammates and try and score well in this Grand Prix. But here we go then to 5 red lights to the Spanish Grand Prix, and we're underway for a very soaking 33 laps around the Circuit de Catalunya. It's an okay start for us there as we maintain the position P12, but it's a wall of cars and a wall of mist trying to see where I can go. On the outside we choose on the outside of our old teammate Charles Leclerc at the top. Rosso there, little bit of a fine margin as we almost brush tyres. He's still there on the inside as we go through turn 3, having to try and feather the throttle and trying to get the power down as early as I can to get P11 there, and we just about do that. So we've lost a bit of time to the cars ahead, but we maintain the position there, and Giovinazzi makes a massive dive there and actually spooks me a little bit, but we maintain and hold P11, but Giovinazzi actually gets the move done on the Toro Rosso there. So once again, Giovinazzi is looking actually quite fiery in this season 4 so far of this career mode, but now we're chasing after the Williams of Kevin Magnussen. It looks like Hamilton is still there in P2. Hülkenberg's maintained that pole position into first place, and then you've got the likes of Lucas Weber in the Renault in P3, Verstappen P4 it seems, so both Renaults looking strong once again in this Grand Prix. But we move back to our POV then, chasing after Magnussen. We've got a great run up the hill then. Can we make a dive down the inside to a late one there, and we have to avoid contact with Kvyat, cut across the curb there and try and cut off the apex angle for Magnussen. We get it done up into P10, the points paying positions, and hopefully we're now not looking behind us for the rest of this Grand Prix and rather forwards at some more points here. We've got Kvyat ahead of us, definitely beatable, and then you've got the likes of the McLarens, Lando Norris, Devin Butler and the Red Bull as well. All cars that we should be able to fight, I would feel, with the pace we've got, especially with the last final performance upgrade we had for this weekend. And we are indeed right up the gearbox of Kvyat, pretty much pushing him through this next corner here. Like, I'm having to lift off, not just hit him on the rear end. So a bit frustrating in terms of this last sector, obviously being quite difficult to overtake, and especially in intermediates. And you can see here the next corner. Oh, Kvyat just crosses us up there. We have to take the escape road and across the kind of sleeping policeman, as it were, on the runoff area there. And so we lose about a second and a bit there to Kvyat, as well, I don't know what it was really, because he didn't have anyone right ahead of him, so he was just that slow into that corner and pretty much just brake checked me into that left-hander. So a bit cheeky there from the Russian, and so we have to wind up again, and it takes us all the way to lap number 5 to actually get back up to Kvyat there. So that lost us a lot of time. I mean, in that time I probably could have overtaken maybe at least 2 more cars potentially, you would have thought, with the pace we've got in this car. And so just really getting held up by the traffic. It's going to get crucial in a lap or two. We don't get past Kvyat there, so we're going to have to try and do it on this lap. We're gaining the speed here with overtake mode and rich mix. Of course, no DRS in the wet conditions, but here we go around the outside. It's very fine on the right hand side there. I think there was a tiny bit of contact between our 2 tyre sidewalls there, but in the end it's a lovely little move on the outside of turn 1 to the inside of turn 2, getting up into P9. And now we've got some free air to try and chase after Lando Norris. We're going to need the free air to try and cool down my engine as it's overheating in in rich mix. But you can see up ahead, yellow flag. Someone's got an issue. It's Verstappen. Verstappen with an engine failure. And so that's more bad luck for the Dutchman in the Renault. The Renault that has the pace to win these Grand Prix. But Verstappen has just had no luck this season and no pace really. If it's not bad luck, it's just a lack of pace. Because of course, last episode he was nowhere in comparison to Weber. And he had no issues really. It was just a lack of pace. But this time, unlucky there for Max Verstappen, engine failure. And so Weber once again will be the singular Renault flying the flag up at the sharp end there for the podium positions. And you can see on the minimap there, I believe Weber is still third place. Hamilton's actually still second. So that's good to see that Hamilton's holding his own in P2. And the genuine pace is there with this Mercedes car now at the Spanish GP. But at the moment, Hulkenberg leads the way in the Racing Point car. But we close up to the McLaren of Lando Norris here. And we get a good enough exit there. Can we get the power down early enough? We do. Mid-apex there. We gain a lot of time. And oh, Norris has a back-end wobble there and has a mistake there. And so we get through up into P7. Set the fast lap of the Grand Prix we've done on the previous lap as well. So the pace is very much with us now. And we're finally getting a move on in the way I thought we would on the opening few laps already. So we're up into P7 now, chasing after Devon Butler in the Red Bull car. But we move on a lap or two later then. We mentioned Hamilton earlier on in P2, chasing after Hulkenberg, where he might just go for a move here into turn 1 as he gains some time. But it looks like Weber is actually getting more time on Hamilton than Hamilton is getting on Hulkenberg. There he goes indeed, the German, the move for P2. The Renault round the outside of Hamilton he goes, and also maybe first place for Hulkenberg. Yes, he does, down the inside of turn number 2, round the outside of turn 3. Weber, what a move this is going to be. If he pulls it off, he does pull it off, and he's up into first place. Lucas Weber, he's won 3 races out of 4 this season so far, and he's just pulled off one of the best moves I've seen an AI car pull on any F1 game really, for first place there in the intermediate conditions no less as well. What a move there for the German, up into P1. Hamilton unfortunately now down to P3 rather than overtaking Hulkenberg for P1 there, so unfortunate times. But like I said, that Renault right now is definitely the best car. You know, on paper the Racing Point's there, but the Renault really is the best car I think, in my opinion. You can see there, that was the example. And so that's why I'm saying later on in this season, if we're to challenge Weber for the title, we're going to need a lot of wins, because Weber might just be on his way for a 4th win here. And meanwhile, we're kind of struggling to even catch Devon Butler here as I get caught up on the curb of the chicane there and lose some time. So lap number 10, and we're only down in P7 here still, not making the progress that I wanted to make really, honestly, in this Grand Prix so far. But someone who might just be making progress in a silver arrow is Lewis Hamilton now. You can see the massive gap Weber has now got to P2, so he's really open up the taps for that Renault. But here goes Hamilton now, forcing the issue with Hulkenberg. Down the inside he goes for P2 in this Grand Prix to get back into the position he was effectively in before the Renault made the pass. There's side by side still though. He has to work for it very hard, Hamilton does, but he gets the job done up into P2, and I'm hoping that he can try and chase off this man. But look at the gap he's got. He really is something else, at least in my career mode save. He is absolutely rapid, Lucas Weber. So gotta hope that Hamilton can now try and chase after him in clean air in that P2. But that move Hamilton made for P2, you know, forced the issue with the Racing Point car after trying and failing previously and being overtaken by Weber, kind of inspired me in a way now on lap 11, and I'm just going to have to send it on Butler. I can't waste any more time behind him here. We have to get past him on this lap. I want to get on to chasing after Perez and then also Gasly there, because I feel like we definitely have the pace. I have the confidence to try and get up there and kind of be with Hamilton. So we've got a semi-good run on him up the hill. We're going to just have to send it here and go for a massive dive like we did previously in Australia. It's going to work out. There's Butler, gives us the room on the outside there. We're going to squeeze him right off the circuit and get the pace up into P6. I say off the circuit, just onto the curbing there. He's still able to take the racing line in the end there. So fair enough racing, I think, from both of us. He left me the room. I gave him just about enough room to operate with at the end of the corner. And so we're up into P6, and we're going to waste no time and try to get on the back of Sergio Perez. But it looks like Hulkenberg comes in then. From P3, Hamilton, Perez and Gasly continue on. Lucas Weber has also made a pit stop there. You can see he's in the pit lane as well. And so we're up into P4 then. My engineer has actually told me that I can try and make a one-stop work. He's told me a change of strategy to lap 18 to make that one pit stop, and so I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try it, because I think that's the only way I'm going to get myself back into this Grand Prix and matching where Hamilton is. So we continue on. We get up into first place of the GP now. Hamilton's in, Gasly's in, Perez is in, And obviously, like I said, Weber's already made his pit stop. So lap 13 now, we're going to continue on as long as we dare. Basically, at least 5 laps to lap 18. I may come in a little bit earlier, though, depending on how the pace is looking for the guys around me in terms of if Weber's there in second place in clean air. Let's see. But on lap 17, I right now hold the fast lap of the Grand Prix. So the pace was actually pretty decent on those intermediates in clean air, not overtaking cars. But there you can see now, Weber has now gone and stolen the fast lap of the Grand Prix. And that's the indication for me that this is the crossover period where he is now going faster than I can go on these worn inters. So now I'm going to say box in this lap on lap 17 and make the stop now on this lap. But this will be my one and only stop. I am not sure yet if Weber and Hamilton and all those guys are making a one-stop themselves or a two-stop, because it could just be a very early one-stop strategy. I mean, they could just have felt like the tyre wear was a bit too high on that set, but now they're on lighter fuel. They could still make a one-stop. I'm not too sure. If they do make a two-stop, though, I think we have a very, very good chance, you know, of completely turning this entire Grand Prix around, and we might just be in the fight for the race win. If they make a one-stop, then we've got a bit of an issue. We've got to do some overtaking and try and still get Perez, Gasly, even Hamilton as well. But let's just see how this goes as we come down the pit exit then in P3. But Sergio Perez is coming on the left-hand side, so we'll just have to settle for P4 there. But we're so close to McLaren there. We're ahead of Butler in P4. So, and we're not actually too far off Hamilton there. You can see on the minimap, he's actually not that far. And visually, I think I saw him going to turn 1 as we exited the pit lane there. So I think we have a good chance right now in this stint to overtake them and get up into P2. We've got yellow flags behind me because that was actually Butler, the Red Bull behind me, retiring out the Grand Prix then. So 2 failures of cars then in the top 5 as Lucas Weber sets another fast up the Grand Prix. But we're going pretty quick now. Purple in the last sector onto lap number 19, and we're closing up on Sergio Perez at a rate of knots here with the Mercedes power working well for us there versus the Renault in the McLaren. Round the outside we go of Sergio Perez. They're skating through on the curb a little, but we get the job done up into P3, and now we have clean air to chase after Lewis Hamilton to get up into P2. Of course, I don't really know at this stage what the position's for, if they're going to pit, if they're not. Either way, though, I know we've got the pace, and we're having some fun right now in this car in clean air now, finally. And that's very much on showcase as we move on to lap number 20 with Hamilton setting the fast lap of the Grand Prix, and then I go and set an even faster time. So both us Mercedes cars in P2 and P3 are going purple, and we're trying to close up on Lucas Weber. So that's really great to see that Hamilton's also got some pace, and he's pushing as well on lap 20. It means that it's going to take a little bit longer than I wanted to try and catch him, but at least he's also closing the gap to Weber as I close the gap to him. So we move on to lap 21, on to lap 22 this is, and so finally now, maybe within striking distance of Hamilton into turn 1. It's been the favourite place to make the moves so far this entire Grand Prix then, and we move on, closing up to Hamilton. Which way to go? The left-hand side once again is the favoured option there. On the outside for turn 1, the inside for turn number 2, and we get it done. Hamilton, though, does make it a bit difficult there, a bit awkward. I almost had to give him some space into turn 2, but in the end could chop across on the racing line. And now we've got all the clean air in the world to, well, do that a little bit and try and skate across and keep the car in a straight line, but all the space in the world to try and now chase after Weber and see what he's going to do. But we move on towards lap 23, and Weber is coming in for his pit stop, a second pit stop here. So we are into first place of the Spanish Grand Prix, and I'm going to the end of this Grand Prix, remember. So I am in a legit first place of this Grand Prix here. Hamilton second, but I bet he's going to pit very, very soon, probably on this next lap actually. And so to that effect, my racing mind turns on to the championship. Weber with 3 wins out of 4. If we go on to win this Grand Prix, it would be highly useful to have Hamilton in second place to make it a 1-2 for Mercedes. And so to that effect, we let Hamilton through as we slow ourselves up there. Don't want to lose too much time for Hamilton. He's on a good in lap actually. That was a very slow lap for me on lap 23 anyway in sector 1 with the mistake I made in turn 3. And Hamilton was pretty rapid there as he's on his in lap there. So I just let him through and didn't want to lose him too much time in this last sector, which obviously is very crucial for Dirty Air. But the plan is now he's going to come in. Obviously Perez will come in as well. They're all on 2 stops. I'm the only one here doing a 1 stop. So I'm guaranteed to be here in first place, as I am right now as we move on to that 24. But what I can try and do is a little bit cheeky, but what we're going to do is try and back up Weber into Hamilton. Hamilton's going to be in P3, but if we can try and help him get P2 and get the 1-2 for Mercedes, that's a benefit to me in the championship because it means less points for Lucas Weber. So we move on to lap 26. We've been running in non-ERS mode and lean mixture for a lot of these laps now, and only now is Weber closing up to us. We have to do some defending here, so this this is the kind of scary moment of this strategy of trying to defend against Lucas Weber. But as we defend against him, you might have heard there, my engineer said that Weber also has an issue with his car. I'm just going to replay the engineer's message just in case you didn't hear it, but he definitely has an issue that's been confirmed to us by Jeff.
Some information on Weber. They seem to have an issue.
So there we have it. The issue is there with 6 laps to go in this Grand Prix. And so here we are in first place. But there is Lucas Weber limping now in P2. Hamilton right up his gearbox there. And he has a very good chance off the run here to get up into P2. Not only that, Perez will probably also get Weber as well. So not only will Lucas Weber go down to P3, he'll go down to P4. And even further if his issues continue. But there goes Hamilton flying past him into turn 1. And he's up into second place there. And so it is a 1-2 for Mercedes. For the first time this season, we're going to be going on to get a win and going to get on to get a 1-2 as well, as Perez is up into P3 as well. You can see there, Weber going even slower, so he might lose even more position. So this is literally perfection for us. Now, we just need to hope that Perez doesn't actually catch and pass Hamilton. I shouldn't think so, because Hamilton's had some decent pace in this entire race in second place, but there we are in first place, doing the business. Now we can try and push on, although I say that, to be fair to Hamilton, he's got newer intermediate tyres, remember. I'm on old Inters because of this one stop. So as we move on to lap 33, the last lap of the Grand Prix, I've still got the fast lap of the Grand Prix, but now my pace is a little bit slower, and Hamilton's actually keeping me quite honest, to be fair to him, actually. So in the end of it, this strategy also made things a little bit hairy for me in terms of I couldn't make a mistake, otherwise Hamilton would have been right up my gearbox for first place. And indeed, into the last sector of the last lap of the Grand Prix, my tyres really start feeling second hand, and so Hamilton gains quite a decent amount there to keep me very honest within 1 second. But here we come now, coming through the last corner, across the line for our first win of this season and our first win in the Mercedes Silver Arrow team, and it's a 1-2 as well. Absolutely stunning Grand Prix for the entire team.
That's it for another Grand Prix and a fantastic win for Mercedes. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, when you overtake that many people, I'd certainly hope you'd win the race. Their car was really effective in the slipstream here today, and the team will be pleased that they didn't cook the engine, given how long they were spending in the hot air behind other cars. They had a lot of confidence to push their tyres hard as well, especially going into the corners, which allowed for some late braking and some exciting passes.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
So in the end, Lando Norris actually grabbed the fast lap of the Grand Prix away from me at the death, I guess, in the last lap. So I only get 25 points, not 26. But still, we're up into second place now of the Drivers' Championship. And look at that, we've closed the gap to 17 points from what was about 30-something, I think. So that's a massive win for us, because obviously, actually, Weber finished even lower than P4 in that Grand Prix. And so Mercedes are now up into P2 of the Championship, within 13 points of Renault, because Verstappen obviously DNF'd at the Grand Prix. Weber in the end finished in P7, and we got a 1-2. So that is a massive race for the team as well as myself in the Drivers' Championship then. But there we go, the Mercedes maybe has finally arrived in Season 4 as a race-winning car there. The pace was great throughout the entire race. Hamilton was really good as well throughout the entire race. If it wasn't for the strategy, if he did a one-stop, he definitely would have had a very good chance of dominating that Grand Prix with a race win probably, because that's the only way I got back into that Grand Prix was surprisingly my engineer, the game engineer for once, suggesting a strategy that was counter to everyone else, and that actually jumped me ahead. Usually, the engineer of this game likes to suggest the default one that everyone else is doing. Usually, the player has to go off for his own accord and do that kind of strategy, but I was quite surprised there, so kudos to Jeff on that one, I guess, for once in his life there. But yeah, first place, absolutely amazing to get back on the top step of the podium here in career mode. It's been a little bit of a while since our last one in this career mode save. So guys, if you did enjoy that episode, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know your thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, do subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.